It started with laughter, the kind that filled every corner of our little Portland house and made the walls feel alive. Ethan had just finished grilling, Laura was setting the table, and I was standing there, wine glass in hand, watching the two people I loved most tease each other over burnt vegetables. "Ethan, you can't call that grilled." "That's carbon," Laura said, scrunching her nose. "It's called flavor, Laura. You should try it sometime," he shot back, grinning. "Flavor? That's pure charcoal," she laughed, brushing her hair behind her ear. I smiled, pretending not to notice the way Ethan's eyes lingered on her for a moment too long. It was probably nothing. They'd always gotten along. And wasn't that a good thing? Families should feel close. Still, something about the ease between them prickled at me. When dinner was over, Laura leaned back in her chair. "You two make marriage look easy," she said softly. "Honestly, it gives me hope." Ethan chuckled, reaching for his glass. "Don't let her fool you. She keeps me in line." "Someone has to," I said lightly, trying to keep my voice from sounding as uneasy as I felt. They laughed, and I joined them, but there was a faint pulse under my ribs, a whisper of discomfort I couldn't name. Later, when Laura left, Ethan wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "You worry too much," he murmured. "Laura just likes spending time with us." "I know," I replied, leaning into him, but my mind was replaying that look, that quick flash of warmth that didn't quite belong to a brother-in-law. I didn't say anything more. The next morning, over breakfast, Ethan scrolled through his phone. "Laura's asking if she can borrow our ladder," he said casually. "Again?" I laughed. "What's she building? A treehouse?" He smiled without looking up. "Guess she trusts me with her projects." That word, me, stuck out. After he left for work, I sat at the kitchen counter staring at the empty coffee mug he'd used. It's strange how the mind clings to small details when something feels off. His mug, her messages. The way he said her name a little softer than usual. But then the guilt crept in. Laura was my sister, my best friend. I couldn't think that way about her. Not after all we'd shared. When she called later that afternoon, her voice was its usual mix of cheer and chaos. "Hey, big sis, I made too much pasta again. Want me to bring some over tonight?" "Sure," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. "Ethan will be home late, but I'll keep some for him." "Oh, that's fine," she said quickly. "I'll probably just drop it off and run. Got an early morning tomorrow." But she stayed. An hour turned into 2. We opened a bottle of wine and ended up laughing about old family stories. She was radiant that night, talking fast, smiling often, asking questions about Ethan's work. "Does he still hate client calls?" she asked, twirling her glass. "Every single one," I said. "He's always complaining about it." She smirked. "He told me he's getting better at them." I blinked. "When did he tell you that?" "Oh," she paused. "I think it came up last week." "At Dad's house. I forget." She brushed it off, but my mind didn't. Later, when she left, I noticed her perfume lingering in the living room, something floral, sharp. Ethan came home not long after. I mentioned the pasta. He smiled absent-mindedly and said, "That was nice of her." Then he kissed my cheek and headed straight for the shower. It should have ended there, but it didn't. Over the next few weeks, Laura stopped asking before coming over. She'd just appear, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to talk. Ethan never seemed surprised to see her. Once, when I came home early, I found them in the kitchen laughing over something on his phone. They both froze for a second when I walked in, then overcompensated with too much chatter. "What's so funny?" I asked, hanging my coat. "Just a meme Laura sent," Ethan said quickly. She added, "You wouldn't get it. Inside joke, inside joke." Between them, that night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Ethan's breathing beside me. My thoughts moved in circles, logical, then paranoid, then back again. They wouldn't do that to me, not them. Still, I started noticing things. Laura's car parked outside my office building by coincidence. Ethan mentioning something Laura had told him that I'd never shared. A lingering text notification that vanished when I reached for his phone. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe this was marriage. Little doubts brushed away. On Saturday, while cleaning, I found a hair tie under the couch. Thin, brown, with a single golden bead. Laura's favorite kind. I picked it up and felt a wave of something cold crawl through my stomach. Ethan came downstairs a few minutes later. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, holding the hair tie between my fingers. "Just found this." It's Laura's. He looked at it, shrugged. Probably dropped it last week. You know she's always losing those. He smiled, but there was something about how quickly he answered, how easy it sounded. I nodded, set the tie on the counter, and walked away. That night, we sat watching TV, and he reached for my hand. I let him, but inside something shifted. The warmth between our palms felt like habit, not connection. I kept telling myself not to imagine the worst. I had a good life, a loving husband, a devoted sister. People like me didn't live in stories about betrayal. Those happened to others, not here, not in this house. But as I turned off the lights and climbed into bed, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Tired eyes, a strained smile. I realized I'd been trying too hard to protect an image that no longer felt real. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. All I knew was that the laughter in our home had started to sound different. Lighter on the surface, emptier underneath. And somewhere deep down, I could feel it. The beginning of something I wasn't ready to face. "You were home today," I said before I could stop myself, watching him rub the sleep from his eyes like he'd just woken from a nap. "Yeah, had a late call, then another later. Figured I'd knock a few things out here," he said, tying his tie. There was a casualness in his voice I didn't trust. "Which call?" I asked, because asking felt safer than accusing. "Client in Seattle. We hashed a pitch this morning." He glanced at the clock and smiled the kind of smile that said everything was normal. "Why? Did something happen?" "No, nothing." My mouth lied faster than my head. "Just," Laura texted, asking if she could pop by later with leftovers. "Oh, she's bringing you food?" He sounded pleased, like it was a favor being done, not a visit. "Yeah." I kept my voice light. "Tell her thanks if you see her." He did, of course. He always did. He leaned in and kissed my cheek like nothing under the surface could ripple the water. I let him, because keeping the picture perfect kept the fracture from widening, at least for a moment. Later, footsteps on the porch and her laugh in the hallway. "Hey, superstar chef," she said, dropping 2 plastic containers on the counter as if they were ordinary, as if they'd never be the thing I'd pick apart later. "You always bring too much," I said, smiling the smile, the one that keeps everything cordial. "You always say that," she teased, settling onto the stool like she belonged. "So what's the project this week? Big client?" "Just the end of quarter push," he answered, sounding tired but proud. "You know how it is." She nodded, and then they both laughed about something I couldn't hear. A private joke flashed between them, quick and bright. I felt that small tightness again, an animal alarm in my ribcage. "Tell me," I said, half a dare. "It's stupid," she said, rubbing her temple. "You wouldn't get it." "Try me," he said, with that lazy half-smile he used when he wanted to charm the room. It was at Marcus's party. He spilled sangria on his shirt and thought it was a new fashion trend. She snorted. We made fun of him for hours. "Oh God, Marcus would die hearing that," he laughed. They both laughed together, looked at each other, and I watched them look the way people in a secret look at one another, conspiratorial, soft around the edges. I stirred the pasta because my hands had to be doing something sensible. "You two have been hanging out a lot," I said, testing the water. "We have?" Ethan sounded surprised, genuine maybe, but the pause after his question was a pause where rehearsed answers sometimes hide. "Laura's been doing more projects lately. She swings by." "She does," Laura said. "You two are the cutest." She winked like it was a private congratulation. Cute. That little word hovered, wrong in the air. When they left, the house smelled like her perfume, citrus and something bright, the kind that sticks to throw pillows. I wiped the counter, lined up the containers, and found the edge of a scarf tucked under the seat of his car when I went out later to grab something I'd forgotten. It caught on my fingers like a truth. "Hey." I held it up in the doorway, halfway to sounding amused. "You left this." "Oh, that?" He sounded offhand. "I gave her a ride after Sunday brunch. Forgot it in the car." "Right. I let the word be small, compact." "That makes sense." His voice was measured, too measured, like he'd practiced casualness. He set the scarf on the table and kissed the top of my head in a way that felt automatic. "It's fine. Nothing to worry about." Maybe nothing. Maybe every stitched detail of our life could be explained and smoothed over with a gesture. But details add up. That's what the mind does. Starts with one thread and finds the whole cloth. A week later, he said he'd work from home twice that week. Clients in different time zones, he explained. Laptop already open, half his attention on my face. I'll pop into the office if I need to. Okay, I said. Inside, I cataloged it. 2 days, twice a week, less commuting, more time here, convenient, practical, normal. Can you help me with a deck later? He asked then, pushing a mug toward me. You have the design eye. Of course, I said, because I did. I was the person who engineered everything, made shapes make sense, smoothed edges no one else noticed. Yet that night, as I watched them huddle over his laptop, swapping looks and elbow nudges, my role felt faint, a background texture they didn't notice. Did you see the new client notes? He said, showing her the screen. I love this layout, she whispered, leaning in. You should try the pale blue here. It breathes. He brightened. Exactly, pale blue. You always have the best eye. You two really do work well together, I said, trying to make the observation casual. We do, she said. He's got the ideas, I pick the colors. That's teamwork, he added, and his hand found mine for a second, light and familiar. After they left that night, I sat at the kitchen island and let the silence settle like dust. My thoughts weren't loud. They crept like mice, examining crumbs. I replayed the small exchanges and noticed patterns, their timing, the quick excuses, the easy laughter that sounded like a duet. When I raised it the next morning, my voice was smaller. You two are spending a lot of time together. We've been working on that pitch, he said. It's nothing. She's just helping with the visuals. She said you were coming by Marcus's last week, I said. You told me nothing. I didn't think it was important, he said. You know how it is. Casual. We all ran into each other. He paused, and there was a look I couldn't place. Why are you asking now? Because sometimes things feel off. The words tasted like metal. It's nothing, he insisted. Stop looking for trouble. I'm not looking, I said. I just notice things. You're imagining it, he said softly, the kind of soft that carries a dismissal like a weight. Stress, Clara. Work's been heavy. You're tired. I wanted to press, to list the moments like a prosecutor, to make sense of the pattern, but he folded the conversation like a map and slid away. I told myself to let it go. I told myself that suspicion could become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But later that day, when he left his laptop open and a message preview blinked on the screen, 2 words and an emoji that made my stomach drop, I read nothing and everything at once. The next time Laura dropped by, she hugged me like a sister should. Warm, familiar, but it lasted a beat too long. You okay? She asked, tracing my cheek with worry that seemed real. Yeah, why? I asked. You look tired. She blinked. You need a break. Come out Saturday, just us. No spouses. Remember how much fun we had back then? I remember, I said, and felt the edges of memory slice into the present. Childhood forts, whispered secrets, promises of always. I'll think about it. She smiled, oblivious to the small ache behind my words. You should. You need to give yourself space. Space. The word landed like a seed. That night, I lay awake thinking about how much silence can hold. Sometimes silence is peace. Sometimes silence protects a lie. I couldn't tell which ours had become. A pattern had formed. Laughter, a scarf, late mornings, work-from-home days. Each detail alone was nothing. Together, they were a shape in the dark, waiting for me to turn on the light. I didn't want to break the house. I didn't want to shatter us, but I couldn't keep pretending the floor wasn't slanted under my feet. So I started watching. Not in a dramatic way, not at midnight with a camera, just small observations. Who texted whom at odd hours, whose car was there more afternoons, which cup smelled like perfume. I told myself I was only careful. I told myself I was protecting what I had left. And the more I watched, the less sure I felt that watching was safe. The house was quiet that Sunday morning, the kind of quiet that feels almost staged. The laundry machine hummed from the corner, rhythmic and steady, like it was trying to fill the silence between my thoughts. I pulled one of Ethan's shirts from the basket, still warm from the dryer, and something small clinked against the tile. A silver earring. I bent down, picked it up, and held it between my fingers. It wasn't mine. I didn't even own anything like it. A smooth hoop with a tiny turquoise stone. But I knew it. Laura had worn that exact pair at dinner 2 weeks ago. My stomach tightened. When Ethan walked into the laundry room, coffee mug in hand, I kept my voice steady. "You dropped this," I said, holding it up. He squinted. "What's that?" "An earring," I said. "Not mine." He took a sip, glanced at it, then shrugged. "Oh, that must be Laura's. She helped fold clothes the other day, remember? You asked her to." I stared at him. "That was weeks ago." He nodded casually. "She probably dropped it then. Guess it just got mixed in." The explanation came too quickly, too polished. No pause, no surprise. "Maybe," I said slowly. "Weird, though, how it ended up inside your shirt." He chuckled, reaching for another shirt. "You're overthinking it, Clara. You know Laura. She moves a lot when she talks, probably brushed against it or something." He kissed my forehead, the same automatic gesture he always used when he wanted a conversation to end. "Relax. It's nothing." I smiled faintly because that's what he expected, but inside, something in me snapped into alertness. Later that day, we sat on the couch watching a movie. Or rather, Ethan watched. I studied him. His laugh sounded normal. His arm around me felt normal, but I noticed the way he checked his phone every few minutes, tilting the screen away from me just slightly. "Work again?" I asked, forcing lightness. "Yeah, new clients all over the place," he muttered without looking up. I waited a beat. "Laura texted me this morning," I said softly. "Oh yeah?" His tone didn't change. "She didn't mention losing an earring." He looked at me for the first time then, smile faint but sharp. "You really think I'm having some kind of secret jewelry affair with your sister? That's not funny." "It's a little funny," he said, turning back to the screen. "You've been tense lately. I think you need a break from work." Maybe I did. Or maybe I needed a break from pretending I didn't notice the shift in his voice whenever her name came up. That night, when he fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The earring sat on my nightstand, glinting faintly in the dark. I turned it over and over in my hand, the cool metal pressing into my palm. My mind retraced the last few months, the texts, the late nights, the laughter that had felt slightly too private. "Don't be paranoid," I whispered to myself. "He's your husband. Laura's your sister." But the pit in my stomach didn't listen. The next morning, Laura stopped by unannounced, again. She breezed through the door carrying muffins. "You look exhausted," she said, setting them down. "Rough night?" "Did you lose something?" I asked, watching her closely. She blinked. "Lose something?" I held up the earring. "This." Her face froze for a second, then softened into surprise. "Oh my God, yes, I've been looking for that. Where did you find it?" "In the laundry," I said. "Oh, right," she said quickly. "I folded a few things for Ethan that day. Guess it slipped off." Same words, same tone, as if they'd rehearsed. She smiled, relieved, and reached for it. "Thank you. I thought it was gone forever." I didn't hand it over, not yet. "You two seem to talk a lot lately." "Ethan and me?" Her eyebrows lifted. "We're family, Clara. You say that like it's weird." It just feels like you're closer." She laughed softly, almost pitying. "You've always been a little protective. Don't worry, your husband's safe with me." I forced a smile and dropped the earring into her palm. It was easier than showing her the tremor in my hands. When she left, I locked the door behind her and pressed my forehead against it. My pulse wouldn't calm. The day dragged on. Ethan texted me around lunch, just a heart emoji, no words. Normally, it would have made me smile. Today, it felt like a bandage over a crack. That evening, I made dinner and tried to act normal. He talked about work, his voice animated, his eyes bright. I nodded, asked questions, pretended to listen. But all I could see was the image of Laura holding that earring, the way her smile trembled before she recovered. "Earth to Clara," Ethan said, snapping his fingers. "Sorry," I murmured. "Long day." "You've been distracted," he said. "Is something wrong?" I hesitated. "Do you ever feel like we've changed?" He frowned. "Changed how?" "I don't know. Like we're not as connected." He sighed, leaned back in his chair. "You're reading into things again. Everything's fine. You just need to relax." Relax. That word again. The word people use when they want you quiet. He reached across the table, covering my hand with his. "You know I love you, right?" I looked at him, searching his eyes for sincerity. "I know," I said, but I didn't feel it. Not the way I used to. When he fell asleep that night, I lay awake again, the ceiling heavy above me. Every memory felt like a clue I'd missed. The late phone calls, the weekend errands, the way Laura's lipstick sometimes smudged when she said she'd just stopped by. My mind spun, connecting dots that maybe weren't supposed to be connected. But once you start, it's impossible to stop. I remembered how she'd once told me, "You're so lucky, Clara. Ethan really adores you." I'd smiled then. Now the sentence replayed like a riddle. The next morning, I caught Ethan humming. While making coffee, the kind of carefree hum that didn't belong in a marriage with cracks. "You're in a good mood," I said quietly. "Yeah," he replied. "Things feel lighter lately." "Lighter," I repeated. "That's good." He smiled, not hearing the sarcasm under my breath. When he left for work, I sat at the kitchen counter staring at the empty coffee mug. The lipstick smudge on the rim wasn't mine. My chest tightened. I wiped it clean before I could think too much, before the thought solidified into truth. Denial is easy when love is involved. It lets you live inside a softer lie. But even the softest lie starts to suffocate after a while. That night, I opened the drawer where I'd kept the earring before returning it. The tiny dent on the wood where it had rested felt like a scar. Small, invisible to most, but impossible to ignore once you knew it was there. And as I closed the drawer, one thought echoed quietly in my mind, steady and certain. Sometimes denial isn't protection. It's just a slower kind of destruction. "You saw that too, right?" I said before I could swallow it back, watching him chat across the table like nothing was wrong. "What, Ethan?" she asked lightly, stirring her salad. "You mean about the turkey timing?" It was chaos. "No, not the turkey," I said. "The way you kept disappearing." "Oh, come on, Clara," she smiled like I was joking. I went to check on the potatoes. "You know how that oven acts." "You went to check on the potatoes for 18 minutes, he said, folding a napkin, the way people fold to hide discomfort. "And then I stepped out because the grill was smoking, right?" "You stepped out," she repeated, eyes flicking to his face, quick and smooth. "We bumped into each other in the garden, that's all." "You two are coordinated like a bad sitcom," Chloe said, leaning forward, elbows on the table. "Seriously, it's like you have a schedule." "We do not," Laura said a little too fast. "We just talk. We've always been close." "You two have been close since before us," Ethan said, with a laugh that tried to make the air lighter. "Family. Family," I echoed, and the word tasted thin. I let them finish dinner, and I let the laughter roll over me like waves I couldn't ride. Their smiles looked soft from a distance, but up close they were uneven, edges that didn't meet. Chloe narrowed her eyes at me once, then slid a napkin toward my hands under the table. "You okay?" she asked quietly. Her voice was the one I trusted most in the room. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." "You're not fine," she said. "Stop pretending. You look at them like you're reading a book you once loved." "I don't want to cause a scene," I whispered. What if I'm wrong? Then you're right and we laugh. If you're not, her face hardened. If you're not, you'll want evidence. She's right, Ethan said, like he'd read the tone of the table and wanted to steer it back. Nothing's happening. Maybe not, Chloe replied, but Clara's not imagining the timing. That's not fair, Laura protested, her tone slippery. You're trying to turn this into an accusation. I'm not accusing anyone, Chloe shot back. I'm saying patterns exist. You know, like when the same two people keep disappearing at the same time during family events. Well, maybe you should mind your own business, Chloe, Laura snapped. Then she smiled, softer, and the argument evaporated. After they left, Chloe stayed on the couch. I've noticed them, she said finally. That look he gives her when she tells a stupid story. It's different. Different how? I asked. Like he's listening to something private, she said. Like he's not listening to you in the same way. I don't know. It felt off the first time I noticed it, and then it kept happening. He said it was nothing, I said, rubbing my thumb over the arm of the couch. He told me I'm tired, stressed. You sound exhausted, she said bluntly. But not the kind from work, the kind from holding back a question that keeps burning. I don't want to be that person, I whispered. The one who breaks things. You already feel broken, she replied. You're not making anything worse by looking. Her words gave me a kind of permission that felt dangerous and necessary. Later, after Chloe left, I waited for him to shower. The house smelled like citrus from the dish soap. I told myself this was small, reasonable. I told myself I'd put it back if I found nothing. Don't do this, I heard myself say, the voice at war with logic. I opened his phone like a thief in his own house. No, Clara, I told myself. You're looking for peace, not a trap. The messages thread between them wasn't there. The space was clean, a smoothed-over table where crumbs should be. I felt the cold press against my throat. Maybe he deleted it, I muttered. The recent calls list still blinked at me. Her name sat there bright and undeniable. Laura, missed call at 8:12 p.m., outgoing at 9:03 a.m., 3 quick calls last Tuesday. I closed the phone with emotion that felt almost reverent, as if I'd handled something fragile and dangerous. I didn't cry, not yet. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long minute, breathing in the steam from the shower. My reflection in the glass looked smaller than I felt. When he stepped out, wrapped in a towel, he smiled like nothing had shifted. You find something interesting? He asked casually. Nothing, I said, and watched his face for reaction. He shrugged, the tilt of his mouth tired but easy. He kissed my forehead. You worry too much. Come on, bed's warm. Tell me you're not hiding things, I said quietly, because saying it louder would sound accusatory. What? He frowned. Why would I hide anything? You're always deleting messages, I said. And you're home more. And Laura's here more. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of us being close, he said. Of us being a family. Stop fishing. Fishing? I repeated, feeling the word like a blow. I'm trying to see if my life is a lie. That's a harsh thing to say, he said softly, but there was steel in it. I don't want to be dramatic, I said, sinking into the bed, the duvet heavy and unfamiliar. I just want clarity. Clarity? He sat beside me, voice low. You want to pick at every little thing until it frays. Why? Because you're afraid? Afraid of what? I shot back. Of being wrong or being right? You're twisting things, he said. You're turning normal into suspicious. It's not healthy. Maybe it's not healthy to ignore what my gut tells me, I said. Maybe it's not healthy to accept easy answers. He didn't respond immediately. He rubbed his temple, tired. Tomorrow I'll stop working from home so much. Happy? Yes, I said without relief. The next day felt like a test. I watched how he moved through the house, where his phone rested, how quickly he answered when his name popped up. I noticed the small private smiles again, the ones threading between his mouth and the space where her voice might be. I noticed Laura's car in the driveway when it was supposed to be at work. I noticed the way his hand lingered on a text preview and then slid away when I looked. When I told Chloe, she didn't blink. You're doing the right thing, she said. But if you want proof, real proof, you need something that can't be explained away. What do you mean? I asked. I mean a message, a photo, a time-stamped call, something that makes denial impossible. I don't want to ruin their lives, I whispered. You already think they're ruining yours, she replied. You need to know which is true. I pictured confronting them and the words collapsed inside me. I pictured quiet evenings and the slow unraveling of everything I'd trusted. I pictured the earring, the scarf, the quick jokes, the deleted threads. My resolve hardened in small degrees, like freezing water bit by bit. That night, I pretended to sleep, but watched the ceiling, piecing together the quiet clues. Each little inconsistency had been a breadcrumb. Some people follow crumbs to bread. I was following them to fire. I rolled onto my side and whispered into the dark, "I will not be the woman who keeps pretending." A minute later, a text popped up on my screen from an unknown number, a picture of a sunset with no caption. I stared at it, pulse racing, heart trying to map a future that might not include the people I once trusted. I realized then that the only thing that could stop the spiral was the truth, even if it burned everything down. And for the first time, I felt like I could face the flames. "Everything changed today," I said under my breath as I slid into the driver's seat, heart already loud. "You sure you want to drive, or do you want me to—" He called from the porch, half in, half out. "I'll be fine," I said, smiling too quickly. "I'm leaving early to beat traffic." "You nervous about the pitch?" he shouted, already distant, the way people throw casual questions to fill a moment. "No, just the usual," I answered, and the lie fit like a smooth coat. "Text me if anything pops up." "Always," he said, and I heard the easy cadence that used to make me feel safe. I closed the trunk like I was sealing a promise. The engine started, I drove 3 blocks, and then I turned right instead of left. "Don't do this," I whispered to myself, palms sweating on the steering wheel. "It's fine," I told the empty car out loud. "You're not a criminal. You're a woman who needs to know." I parked 2 streets away and grabbed my tote like a prop. My suitcase stayed locked in the trunk, evidence of a trip that never happened. I walked to a shadowed bench and sat, pretending to read while my eyes watched my own house. "He's at home," I told myself, forcing calm into the shape of words. "He's home. You'll see them and you'll be free or you'll be broken. Either way, you need to know." "You look pale," a neighbor said as they passed, offering a polite nod. "Just tired," I answered, the kind of tired that isn't fixed by sleep. The morning moved slow enough to notice the small things. The way sunlight hit the blue mailbox, the distant bark of a dog, a cyclist on the corner. My phone buzzed with a spam email. I ignored it. "I'm doing this," I said, throat tight. I promised myself I wouldn't let fear decide anymore. At 9:10, her car eased into the driveway, a blue sedan I'd bought my sister years ago. My breath hitched. "Of course she has a key," I murmured. "You gave it to her, remember? For emergencies." "You idiot," I scolded myself softly. "You gave it to her." She stepped out laughing into the morning like it was any other day, carrying a reusable bag and that practiced smile only family can wear. He opened the door, smiling too, and the sight lodged in my chest. "Good morning," I heard her say, breezy, like an actor hitting their mark. "Morning," he replied, voice warm and ordinary. "Come in." They went inside together, shoulders brushing in a way people do when they're comfortable, or when they have rehearsed comfort. "Stay calm," I told the bench. "Watch. Don't burst in." "Not yet." I stood up and moved to the side of the house where the hedges offered cover. My hands shook, but my steps were steady. I hugged the shrubs like they could hide me from the truth I was hunting. "Why are you doing this?" I asked myself, because I needed an answer that sounded brave. "Because if they're not innocent, the pretending has to stop," I said. "Because you deserve to see everything with your own eyes." The back gate creaked softly as I stepped through. The backyard smelled like cut grass and the faint lemon from the dish soap still clinging to the air. I crouched behind a low planter and peered through a narrow gap in the fence. "They're a little too normal," I whispered. "That's the problem." "Do you want me to go in?" a voice in my head asked, the part of me that wanted confrontation. "No," I said aloud to the empty yard. "If I storm in, they'll deny it. I want the moment when the truth can't be rewritten." I watched them cross the lawn, their movements casual. He carried a blanket, ours, folded over his arm. My mouth went dry. Why would he take our blanket out there? I wondered, fingers gripping the fence. He wouldn't, I answered myself. Not for nothing. They reached the storage room near the back, the one he'd built for his tools. The door closed behind them with a soft thud I felt in my ribcage. Go inside, I told the air. Just go inside. They did. For a second I thought I'd misread everything, that they'd disappear into a closet of gardening supplies. But then voices, muffled and too intimate, carried through the wood. I can't be here, I heard her say, voice bright and private. Shh, he murmured. It's fine. We have 10 minutes. My hands went numb. The plan that had been a trembling seed sprouted into something irreversible. You can't do this, I whispered, not sure who I was talking to. You already did, another part of me said, the part that had been awake for months. I inched closer, heart hammering like an alarm. The padlock on the bench gleamed in the sunlight, exactly where he'd left it. An idea, dangerous and cold, settled in my chest like a rock. You're not supposed to be this woman, I told myself, thinking of the woman who forgave and smoothed things over. You're someone else now. I picked up the padlock with hands that didn't tremble anymore. The metal felt heavier than it should. I slid the lock through the latch and paused, the cold click waiting at my fingertips. Maybe you should just leave, a small voice said inside me, the voice of caution. No, I said, choosing fire over fear. They've had months to come clean. They chose this. I clicked it shut. The sound was small and final. What are you doing? I heard muffled from inside. It's stuck, she cried, immediate panic. No, it's locked from out here, he yelled. Open the door. I stood there, palms pressed to the wood, feeling a strange calm settle like armor. You could call the police, I whispered, recalling laws I'd half remembered in daydreams. I don't want the police, I said, and my voice surprised me with how steady it was. I want him to be seen. I want Marcus to see. Marcus, Laura's husband, wasn't in the plan yet, but I knew he'd come. He would see them, and he would know what I already suspected. Don't be reckless, I heard Chloe's voice in my memory, the night she'd said, if you want proof, get evidence. This wasn't evidence. It was exposure. I stepped back and watched the door. Their voices grew louder, frantic, pleading. The sun moved, the day kept its indifferent orbit, and I felt like I'd set the world into motion. Why would you lock them? A neighbor later asked, like it was a strange but explainable decision. Because some lies need a door shut, I might answer, because I wanted to be honest. But right now, I just stood in the yard breathing air that tasted of metal. He pounded on the wood. Rebecca, open up. Who's Rebecca? She said, voice breaking. I swallowed. I wasn't Rebecca, but I felt like someone else entirely. My name felt small in my mouth. Someone's going to walk into this, I murmured. Someone who has the right to see. I pulled my phone from my pocket, thumb hovering over a contact I'd memorized months ago, then stopped. I typed instead, hands steady now. I'm sorry. Be there soon. I hit send. I watched the driveway, waiting for a car I knew well, fighting nausea that felt like betrayal's twin. The plan had no room for hesitation anymore. Whatever happens next, I told the empty sky, you wanted truth. You wanted to know. This is the moment you choose what kind of person you'll be. I folded my arms, feeling the cool morning on my skin, and waited with an ache that had sharpened into resolve. Behind the closed door, their voices calmed into whispers. The lock gleamed in the sunlight like a promise. I understood then that there was no turning back, only the truth, waiting to be witnessed. The door clicked shut before my brain could decide what to do. Hey, why'd you shut the door? She said, voice bright at first, then slipping. Ethan? Laura, he answered breathless. What are you doing in here? You didn't tell me you'd lock it, she whispered, panicked now. Open the door. Open it. Someone's out there, he said louder. Come on, open up. I'm right here, I said, and my voice sounded smaller than I wanted. You? Rebecca? She cried. Rebecca, are you home? No, I lied, steady. I'm running late. What is this? He demanded. Who are you? Why is the door locked? You tell me, I said. You two slipped inside a locked room with a blanket from our bed. That's not, she started, voice cracking. It's not what? He snapped. You think we'd save it, I said. Explain the blanket then. It was cold, he said defensively. We were fixing a leak. It was just... Fixing a leak? She echoed, breath high. Ethan, tell her. Tell her the leak was the whole reason. You don't get to play stupid now, I said. You had 8 months of stupid choices. No, Clara, please, she begged. Please don't make this worse. You made it worse, I answered quietly. You ruined everything. Don't talk to me like that, he hissed. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I felt my hands steady on the wood. You think denial protects you. It protects you until it doesn't. Rebecca, open the door, she cried again. Please, please. I could call someone, I said. I could call the police. Don't, he said. Please don't. I'm not calling yet, I said. I want someone important to see this first. You're insane, he spat. This is illegal. Maybe, I said. But is what you did legal? Is it honest? Clara, come on. This is ridiculous, she sobbed. We never meant to hurt you. It just happened. Happened. The word felt like a slap. Happened 8 months ago at Dad's party? Happened right after your birthday? Happened while I cried about infertility? That's what you call happened? It wasn't planned, she whispered. We didn't plan. You had months to stop. Months to come clean, I said. Instead, you crept around my house. You're making him out to be a villain, he said, voice strained. We had a connection. It wasn't about hurting you. So it's okay to hurt me? I asked, calm as stone. Because you had a connection? No one wanted this to, she began, and the sentence shattered into sobs. You didn't think about my life, I said. You didn't think about memories, holidays, the nights I cried. You used my home as a secret. My throat tightened, and I let the ache sit there. I wasn't going to make it sound pretty. Please, he said, voice softer. Talk to me. Let's talk this through privately. You already had private, I said. You had it for months. Privately was your rehearsal space. Now you have to face the rest of us. Someone will hear us, she said. They'll think you're extreme. They'll think what I show them, I said. The truth. You can't do this, he said. You can't lock people like this. I didn't lock you to hurt you, I said. I locked you so someone with the right to know could see. You're not thinking straight, she wailed. This will destroy families. It already destroyed mine, I said. You two did that. You can let us out, he pleaded. Nobody needs to see this. Then why did you keep doing it? I asked. Why take my blanket? Why meet in my shed? Why delete messages? Clara, he started, then faltered. Say it, I said flatly. Say you chose to keep lying. What do you want? She sobbed. What do you want me to say? I want honesty, I said. I want accountability. I want him to say to my face that he chose to betray me. I want Marcus to hear it from me, not from someone else. Marcus? She asked, a small, sharp sound. Don't bring Marcus into this. Marcus deserves to know. I didn't add that Marcus deserved better than the version of Laura who thought secrets were acceptable. He'll hate you. She sounded small. He'll hate you forever. He'll have a choice, I said. He can decide how to respond when he sees you both. He isn't the joke in all of this. You're cruel, he said finally. You think locking us in is justice? It's humiliation. Maybe, I said. Maybe justice is ugly. Please, she whispered again, softer now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never told him. I never wanted to hurt you. Sorry doesn't undo 8 months, I said. Sorry is cheap when you had time to stop. Stop, he said, voice cracking. Please, you're going to make this worse. Please, Clara, don't do this. Don't call anybody. Don't humiliate us. You made your choice, I replied. Now you live with it together. Rebecca, please, she sobbed. I'm begging you. I'm not Rebecca, I said. The words felt like a blade, cutting me open and letting the truth out. You called him Rebecca? He asked, stunned. I could call him anything, I said. Names don't change facts. Who are you? She cried. Who would do this? I'm the woman you used as cover, I said. I'm the woman you pretended to love. You're insane, he repeated, rage coming back like a tide. This is cruel. Maybe cruel is the only language you understood, I said. Silence pressed against the wood for a few seconds, full and thick. Their breathing slowed, and the muffled sound of them moving filled the small space. I watched the padlock glint in the sun at my feet. You don't have to. You can't, she started, then stopped. Listen, I said softer. If you had told me anything at the start, I might have tried to save this. But you didn't. You hid. You lied. So I chose a way to make it undeniable. We'll leave, he said suddenly. We'll go. We'll move out. Just let us out now and we'll leave. Leave? I repeated. Leave what? Your choices? You think leaving erases the 8 months you had here while I trusted you? We'll leave, he insisted. We'll make it right, please. You had your chance, I said. It's too late for bargains. Who the hell are you? She said again, ugly and terrified. Why are you like this? Because I am tired of being small in my own life, I said. I am tired of being polite to people who use me. We'll tell Marcus everything, he said, frantic. We'll tell him and make it right. You tell Marcus whatever you want, I said. But you'll have to tell him in front of him. No, she sobbed. No, please. He'll kill himself. Then consider that before you sleep next to him, I said. The words were cold but clear. Don't say that, he hissed. Don't put that on me. You already put it on me, I said. Every time you kissed me and then kissed her, you put it on me. We didn't, she began, then broke again. Just stop, I said. Stop pleading. Stop gaslighting. Say the truth. A long, shuddering breath passed through the wood. It started after your birthday, he admitted finally, voice low. It started at the party. We were reckless. Reckless, I echoed. That's your word? We didn't mean... She started. You didn't mean to hurt me, I said. But you did. You chose to continue. He went quiet. Her sobs subsided into ragged sighs. The truth hung in the air between us, raw and terrible. You could open the door, I said quietly. You could stand up and let Marcus see. You could tell him everything. No, she whispered. I can't face him. I can't. Then at least look at me while I decide who else needs to see, I said. Look at me and tell me what you expected me to be when you did this. There was a small, broken sound that might have been a laugh, more like a sob turned inside. I expected you to never know, she said. I expected it to stay small. And when would it stop being small? I asked. When you'd be comfortable enough to leave your husband? When you wanted more? Please, he said, voice hollow. Please, Clara. Don't make us suffer more than we already do. You started the suffering, I said. I finished it by making you accountable. The day moved around us. A neighbor's lawnmower hummed in the distance. I felt the gravity of what I'd done like a stone in my chest. Not regret yet, only the solid weight of consequence. If you want to call someone, he said weakly, call whatever you need. But realize what that does. I do, I said. And I also know what you did. You're going to tell Marcus? She asked, voice small and terrified. Soon, I said. Soon he will see with his own eyes. No, she almost screamed. Then she sank back, collapsing into silent breaths. I pressed my palm to the wood and felt their panic on the other side like a distant echo. I'm sorry, I whispered to myself, not to them. I'm sorry it had to be like this. My fingers found my phone. My thumb hovered over Marcus's name as the sun hit the lock and made it glow. I stared at the screen long enough to see my reflection, unfamiliar and steady. Then I pressed call. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I stared at the screen for a long time before pressing call. My pulse thudded loud enough to drown out every thought. Hey, Clara. His voice came through warm, unaware. Everything okay? You sound off. Michael, I said, and the steadiness in my voice surprised me. Ethan's stuck in the storage room. He was fixing something earlier, and the door jammed. I can't open it. He laughed softly. That old latch again? I told Ethan last month it needed replacing. I know, I said quickly. Can you come by? He's been in there a while. Sure thing, he said without hesitation. Give me 20 minutes. Thank you, I murmured, and hung up before my breath could give me away. For a few seconds, I stood there staring at the backyard, the padlocked door gleaming under the sun, their muffled voices still audible, still pleading. He's coming, I whispered, gripping the phone until my knuckles whitened. Now you'll see what hiding looks like in daylight. Inside the storage room, she was still shouting. Clara, please, this isn't you. Please open the door. You'll thank me later, I said quietly. Truth always comes knocking. I'm begging you, Ethan said, pounding the wood. Don't drag him into this. You dragged him into this, I said, calm again. I'm just inviting him to the final scene. The sound of gravel crunching under tires reached the driveway. My heart skipped. Showtime, I whispered. Michael's voice called out cheerfully. Clara, I got your text. What's going on? I walked to meet him, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Thank you for coming. He frowned slightly. You okay? You look pale. I'm fine, I said. They're back there. I think the lock jammed. Them? He blinked. Wait, Ethan's in there? Who's they? You'll see, I said softly. It's easier if you just see. The confusion on his face deepened, but he followed me. The air in the yard felt thick, every step slower than the one before. He chuckled nervously. You sure it's safe to go in? That old latch can be tricky. I handed him the small brass key. Here, I said. Open it. Where's Ethan? In there, I whispered. The closer we got, the more distinct their voices became. Muffled, frantic, unmistakable. Please, Clara, don't do this. Laura's voice cracked on the other side of the door. Michael froze. His hand trembled slightly as he turned toward me. That sounded like, no, that can't be. Go ahead, I said, stepping back. See for yourself. He hesitated, eyes searching mine for an explanation. I didn't give him one. The key turned. The lock clicked. The door swung open. For a second, silence. Then everything unraveled at once. Laura gasped, stumbling backward, eyes wide and wet. Ethan stood beside her, pale, words caught in his throat. Michael stared at them like he'd just stepped into a nightmare he didn't believe could exist. What is this? He whispered. Laura reached for him. Michael, wait, please, it's not what it looks like. He flinched away from her touch. Then tell me what it is. She stammered, breath breaking. It just happened. I swear, it just happened? He repeated, disbelief slicing through the air. You're my wife. I'm sorry, she cried. I didn't mean for this to... Ethan stepped forward. Michael, please. Don't blame her. It's my fault. Your fault? Michael laughed bitterly. You're my friend, my best friend. You were in my house, around my kids. Ethan lowered his head, shame replacing defiance. It wasn't supposed to go this far? Michael turned to me, his voice breaking. How long have you known? Long enough, I said. He looked back at them, jaw tight, eyes glassy. I trusted both of you. I know, I said quietly. So did I. Laura fell to her knees, sobbing. Michael, please. Don't hate me. I love you. He stared at her for a long, empty moment, then shook his head. No, you love yourself. She reached for him again, but he stepped away, trembling. How long? He asked Ethan. Months, Ethan whispered. I'm sorry. Michael's voice rose, cracked, and then steadied. Months, and you both smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Every dinner, every weekend, you pretended. Laura covered her face, weeping. Ethan tried to speak, but no words came out. I stood still, watching everything unfold. The truth, raw and loud, spilling into the open air. For the first time, I didn't feel weak. You wanted the truth, I said softly, more to myself than to anyone else. Here it is. Michael's eyes flicked to me, filled with disbelief and grief all at once. You locked them in? Yes, I said, because I needed someone else to see. Someone besides me. He stared at me, then back at them. I wish I hadn't. Laura's sobs filled the space again. Michael, please, please don't leave me. You already left me, he said quietly. You just didn't walk out the door. Ethan stepped closer. Michael, I'm sorry. I'll tell everyone it was me, not her. She doesn't deserve what? Michael snapped. The truth? Because she already earned it. The words hit like stones, final and unshakable. I turned my gaze away, unable to look at their faces any longer. The storage room, once just a forgotten corner of my home, had become a courtroom, a confessional, and a grave for everything we'd built. Michael looked at me again, quieter now. You did this on purpose. Yes. Why? Because if betrayal hides in the dark, I said, it has to be dragged into the light. He nodded slowly, eyes unfocused. You got your light, Clara. Now we all have to live in it. He walked past me, his steps heavy and uneven. The gate creaked as he left, and the sound echoed like something ending. Behind me, Laura sobbed harder. Ethan didn't move. I could feel his stare, but I didn't turn around. Clara, he said finally, voice raw. You've ruined us. I looked back at him, my expression calm but hollow. You ruined us a long time ago. He took a shaky breath. You think this makes you the hero? No, I said softly. It just makes me free. He dropped his head, shoulders sinking. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll regret something honest. The air felt colder now, heavier, as if the truth itself had weight. Laura kept repeating his name like a broken record. Ethan sat on the step outside the storage room, silent, empty. I picked up the key from the ground and slipped it into my pocket. My hand didn't shake anymore. As I walked toward the house, I could still hear their voices behind me, pleading, crying, blaming. But I didn't look back. In that moment, I realized something I'd never understood before. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free gently. Sometimes it drags you through fire first. But freedom, even when it burns, is still freedom. And for the first time in months, I could finally breathe. Don't look at me like that, Ethan said, pacing across the living room. His voice was rough, uneven. You think this is all my fault? It's not just your fault, I said quietly. It's hers too. Laura sat on the couch, face buried in her hands, trembling. Please, Clara, please don't do this. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You didn't mean for it to go this far? I asked, keeping my tone calm. You had months. You had choices. You meant every one of them. Ethan turned sharply. Stop twisting it. You don't understand what was happening between us. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. You two understood each other more than you ever tried to understand me. Clara, Laura sobbed. I know you hate me right now. I don't hate you, I cut in. I don't feel anything at all. That's what scares me. The silence that followed was heavier than shouting could have been. Ethan rubbed his temples like he was the one in pain. Can we talk about this like adults? He said finally. We can fix it. Fix it? I almost laughed. You think this is something you fix? Like a broken drawer or a late bill? He flinched. I made a mistake. You made a series of decisions, I corrected. Every text, every lie, every time you kissed me goodnight and then went to her. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. He sank into the armchair, staring at the floor. Laura wiped her tears, eyes swollen and desperate. Clara, she whispered, I was lonely. Michael was gone all the time, and you had everything I didn't. You had him, you had love. Love? I said sharply. You took love and turned it into poison. You came into my home and poisoned it. She broke again, sobbing harder. I didn't move to comfort her. Stop crying, Ethan muttered, his voice cracking. You're making it worse. Oh, I'm making it worse. She snapped suddenly, turning to him. You promised me. You said you'd tell her. Don't, I said. Don't even try to drag him down with your promises. I stood up, feeling something shift in me. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder. Both of you, I said. You need to leave before sundown. Laura froze. What? Clara, please, where will I go? Home, I said. Back to your husband if he still wants you. Ethan rose slowly. You're not serious. I'm absolutely serious. You can't just throw me out of my own house. This isn't your house anymore, I said. It stopped being yours the moment you brought her here. He stared at me, jaw tight, eyes burning. I still love you. No, I said softly. You love what I used to give you. Comfort, safety, admiration. You don't love me? His voice rose. I made one mistake. One? I said. Then tell me, Ethan, was it one kiss? One secret? One night? Or was it every time you chose her over your vows? He didn't answer. The truth hung between us thick and ugly. Leave, I repeated. Laura stood shakily. Clara, please, Don't say my name, I said. You don't get to anymore. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ethan grabbed his jacket and stormed out the front door, slamming it so hard the wedding photo above the mantel tilted sideways. Laura followed slowly, pausing at the doorway. Mom will never forgive you for this, she said weakly. Family is family. Not anymore, I said. She looked like she wanted to argue, but there was nothing left to say. The door clicked shut behind her. The house went silent. For the first time, I noticed the echoes of my own breathing. The air felt different, stale, hollow, stripped of warmth. The walls that had held laughter now held only echoes of betrayal. I walked through the living room slowly, eyes drifting over the framed photographs. Our wedding day, the beach trip with my parents, Laura standing beside me in her bridesmaid dress. I picked up one photo, our smiles frozen mid-laughter, and stared at it for a long time. Then I set it face down on the table. When the doorbell rang hours later, I didn't want to answer it, but I did. My parents stood there, confusion and worry written all over their faces. What's going on? My mother asked, stepping inside. Laura called me crying. Then she told you more than I need to, I said. My father frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said quietly, your son-in-law and your daughter have been lying to everyone. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. No, that can't be true. It is. She shook her head. Clara, families fight. They make mistakes. But she's still your sister. I looked her in the eyes. Not anymore. My father's voice softened. Clara, I know this hurts, but don't close the door forever. You'll regret it. No, I said. Regret is what got me here. I spent months regretting not asking questions, not trusting my instincts. I'm done regretting silence. My mother started to cry quietly, whispering, You girls were inseparable. Not anymore, I said again, this time with finality. They didn't stay long. I didn't blame them. Parents never know where to stand in the wreckage of their children's choices. After they left, I sat on the couch surrounded by the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock. I stared at the wedding photos, the empty wine glass on the table, the blanket still draped over the back of the chair, the same blanket Ethan had carried to the storage room. It hit me then. My home wasn't a home anymore. It was a museum of a life that didn't exist. I ran my fingers over the ring on my hand, then slipped it off. The metal was cold, lighter than I expected. I set it beside the picture frame and leaned back. In that moment, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, listening to the sound of my own breath echo through the hollow space. Betrayal doesn't just break trust. It breaks the version of yourself that once believed love was unshakable. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized the truth of it. Some homes don't fall apart from storms. They collapse quietly from within. You can't just take everything, he said again, voice flat, like a recording stuck on the same line. You took my trust, I said. You gave it away. You don't understand, he pleaded. I'm sorry. I still love you. Love doesn't erase choices, I said, and it doesn't cancel months of hiding. You're being dramatic, he snapped, shifting in the hard-backed chair. You lied, I answered, and the word landed between us like a verdict. You lied every time you smiled at me and then texted her. The lawyer says it's better to settle quietly, a man in a suit said, paperwork rustling. We can negotiate terms. Keep this out of the press. Negotiate? Ethan scoffed. We can work this out. You can keep your fantasies, I said. I want the truth recorded. I want what's fair. That's all. We can draft an agreement, the lawyer said, tone practiced, eyes skimming a folder. Assets, custody of the dog, alimony considerations. I paid the mortgage, I said. I started the business. Those facts matter. The court will decide, he said. But negotiation saves expenses. I didn't marry to barter dignity, I said. We go to court if you want to fight. I'm done hiding behind closed doors. A beat of stunned silence. Then Ethan's voice, small. You're really going through with this. I already started, I said. You signed the papers I filed this morning. His face folded like paper. You filed? Without talking? I called a lawyer, I said. Because your explanations weren't answers. You could have told me, he said, voice cracking. I told you, I said. In my way, you just pretended not to hear. You can stay on my couch for a while, she said, voice thin, suitcase at her feet. I can't stay with you, he replied, pacing the tiny living room. I made a choice. I have to own it. Please don't make me leave, she begged, hands clasped. He'll come around. He has to. He can't undo what he did, I said when I walked in to collect some papers. You damaged more than a relationship. You broke a family. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't know how to fix this. There's no fix that puts the past back, I said. There's only moving forward, with consequences. She looked at me like I was the villain, and the victim rolled into one. You're unforgiving, she said, voice brittle. I'm realistic, I replied. I'm tired of pretending small things are nothing. Did you hear? They're separating, a woman said across the produce aisle, lowering her voice like she was sharing the final chapter of a novel. It's awful, another replied. You wouldn't expect that family to fall apart. They were always so perfect, the first woman said. Remember that wedding? She looked radiant. People hide storms, I said quietly. Not a stranger this time watching me, but an old coworker I'd run into. He looked at me with sympathy and then awkwardly away. You okay? He asked. Fine, I lied. Just handling things. You can count on me, he said. If you need anything. Thanks, I said, and then left before my throat closed. The gossip would swell into versions of the truth I couldn't control. Public interest is rising, the lawyer said later, leaning forward. If this goes to court, expect local coverage. Your statements will be quoted. I told the truth, I said. I'm not apologizing for that. You should be prepared, he warned. People will take sides. I understand the risk, I said. But I'd rather be honest and have people judge me than live a lie. We'll prepare your filings, he said. Collect the messages, timestamps, any proof you have. I nodded. The texts, the receipts, the timeline, it's all there. You'll need witness statements, he added. Neighbors, friends, anyone willing to confirm the meetings. Chloe will, I said. She saw patterns. Michael will testify to what he saw. He might not, the lawyer cautioned. He's involved. He saw them, I said. He will tell the truth. You did what? Chloe demanded, hands on her hips at the cafe table. I showed him, I said. He saw them. He saw the rest of it. You're my hero, she said bluntly, then softer. Are you okay? Some nights I feel like I'm standing on a cliff, I admitted. Other days I feel lighter. You're allowed to be two things, she said. Angry and relieved. I'm trying to stop living inside the what-ifs, I said. This is the first clear step. You told your parents? She asked. They came yesterday, I said. It was rough. How did they take it? She asked. My mother asked if I still love my sister, I said. I told her no. She didn't like that. She'll come around, Chloe said. Some people take time to see. Some never do, I said. That's fine too. Justice and healing aren't the same, she said, looking up from her notebook with soft eyes. I wanted justice, I replied. I wanted the world to see what happened, so I wasn't alone in the truth. You have justice, she said. The lock, the call, exposing it, that was your way of forcing accountability. It felt like revenge, I admitted. Revenge solves a moment, she said. Healing asks you to stay with the pain and learn from it. So I have to forgive them? I asked, bitter laugh in my throat. You don't have to forgive for them, she said. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself. It's a release, not approval. How do I stop replaying the betrayal? I asked, hands folded tight. Notice when you're replaying and shift, she said. Small practices, breathe, name the feeling, ground yourself. That sounds simple, I said. Simple isn't easy, she replied, but it works over time. I don't want time to be an ally of their dishonesty, I said. It won't be, she answered. Time will be an ally to your clarity if you let it. You can hold them accountable and still heal. I want both, I said. I want to win and to heal. You can, she said, but healing will come slower. It will ask you to be kinder to yourself. You sure about this number? Ethan's lawyer asked over the phone, negotiation tone back on. Yes, I said. I worked out what's fair. He can keep a car, his personal items. The house is mine. That may provoke him, Chloe warned later. Let him be provoked, I said. He provoked this. You'll have to stand in front of people, she said. At court, in depositions. I'll say the truth, I replied. That's all I owe. Promise me you'll go easy on yourself, she said softer. You don't need to be the monster they paint you as. I'm not trying to be anything, I said. I'm trying to be honest. Are you nervous? Dr. Harris asked during one late session. Terrified, I said. Not of court, of waking up and finding the ache again. That's normal, she said. You've been betrayed by people you trusted. Fear is a reasonable response. How long until it doesn't hurt? I asked. Pain softens, she said. But it leaves an outline, a shape of what you survived. That outline helps you rebuild intentionally. I want to rebuild, I said. I don't want to rebuild on sand. Then build slowly, she advised. Start with small actions that affirm your worth. I sold some client leads this week, I admitted. It felt good. Good, she said. Celebrate that. You're reconstructing pieces of your life. I wonder if I'll ever trust again, I said. You will, she answered. Trust will be cautious, not naive. That's healthier. Settlement appears fair, the lawyer said finally, pushing a pen toward me. Once signed, the divorce will finalize in about 4 months. 4 months, I repeated. Do you want to add anything? He asked. No, I said. I want it done. You're sure? He said. Yes, I said. I want to move on. He nodded and watched me sign. The ink dried like a boundary line drawn on a map. Outside the courthouse, whispers circled like gulls. Some people stared, some whispered, some avoided my eyes. I felt exposed and oddly lighter, as if the weight that had been pressed down on me for months had shifted. You did the right thing, Chloe said, hugging me hard. I did what I had to, I replied. But I keep thinking of Dr. Harris's words. Justice and healing aren't the same. So what now? She asked, squeezing my hand. I heal, I said. Not because they deserve it, but because I do. Her eyes were wet. Good, you deserve it. I walked away from the courthouse with the signed papers folded in my bag and a hollow place where the past used to sit. The world didn't stop turning. The neighbors still mowed lawns. The grocery store still stocked apples. Life kept moving around the fracture I'd exposed. But for the first time in months, I felt like I'd reclaimed a piece of myself. And I was ready, if not for forgiveness, then at least for the slow work of being whole again. You're really painting that room first? Chloe asked, leaning on the doorway, sipping her coffee. You sure you're ready? I'm not just ready, I said, dipping the brush into a pale yellow can. I need to. She raised an eyebrow. Yellow, though? You realize that's like the happiest color on earth. That's exactly why, I said. It used to be the darkest place in this house. I'm changing that, Chloe smiled faintly. Then let's make it shine. We worked quietly at first, the rhythmic swish of brushes filling the air. It feels different in here, she said after a while. Lighter already. It's not the same room, I replied. It'll never be the same. You're sure you're okay doing this yourself? She asked, glancing around. I need to touch every wall, I said softly. I need to erase them with my own hands. She nodded. Then this isn't painting. It's therapy. It's both, I said. Dr. Harris told me healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means reclaiming. I think I finally get that. The afternoon light filtered through the window, golden and forgiving. I felt my breath slow for the first time in months. When we finished the last wall, Chloe stepped back. You did it, she said, smiling. It doesn't even look like the same space. It isn't, I whispered. This room used to feel like a wound. Now it feels like a beginning. She put her hand on my shoulder. Then maybe it's time you stop punishing yourself for surviving. I'm not punishing, I said. I'm rebuilding. Reopening already? My mother asked over the phone a few weeks later. You think you're ready for that? I'm ready to work again, I said. I've spent months waiting for permission, from myself. It's a big step, she said cautiously. Just don't rush your heart. I'm not rushing it, I replied. I'm giving it direction. She sighed softly. Your father's proud. He keeps saying you've always been stubborn in the right ways. I smiled. Tell him that's the only compliment I'll ever accept from him. She laughed quietly. You sound lighter, Clara, happier. I am, I said, and realized I meant it. After the call, I walked through my house, and looked at the changes. The photos that once hung above the fireplace were gone, replaced by a large canvas of abstract colors. My business paperwork was neatly stacked on the kitchen table beside a vase of white lilies. The air smelled like paint and lemon polish, fresh, alive. I wasn't the woman who cried over empty nights anymore. You're sure you want to reopen here? Chloe asked, walking into the new studio I'd set up in what used to be our guest room. Yes, I said, unpacking fabric swatches and laying them across the table. People used to come in here for family dinners. Now they'll come for creativity. I like that, she said. Trading chaos for color. I needed something that was mine again, I said. Something untouched. What's the business plan? She asked, sitting down. You're relaunching with the old name? No, I said, smiling. New name. New everything. Reclaim interiors. She grinned. That's perfect. It's not just about furniture or paint anymore, I said. It's about spaces that heal. Homes that tell new stories. Sounds like therapy again, she teased. Maybe it is, I said. Maybe design and healing are the same thing. Taking what's broken and making it beautiful again. She watched me organize samples for a while. You know, I think this is the first time in months I've seen you excited. I think it's the first time I've let myself be, I said. When my first new client, a woman named Denise, walked in the next week, she smiled at the room's warmth. This place feels calm, she said. Like it's been through something and survived. It has, I said. What can I help you with? She smiled nervously. I'm starting over. Divorce. I want my house to feel different. I don't want it to remind me of him. Something inside me softened. Then I know exactly what you need, I said. We'll make your space tell your story again. As she described her vision, open light, warm tones, freedom, I realized how similar we were. When she left, Chloe nudged me. You think you can handle helping people through the same pain? I think I can't not, I said. If I can help someone find peace in their home, maybe I'll keep finding mine too. One evening, while rearranging some decor pieces, Ethan's old email popped up in my inbox. I hesitated before opening it. I hope you're doing okay. I heard you reopened your business. I'm glad. I wanted to say I'm sorry again, for everything. I read it twice, then deleted it without replying. It didn't hurt like it used to. It didn't sting or make my chest tighten. It was just a sentence from someone I no longer knew. That's when I realized healing had quietly moved in while I wasn't looking. Do you ever miss him? Chloe asked one night as we sat on the back porch, wine glasses in hand. Sometimes, I said honestly. Not him exactly. Just the idea of what I thought I had. She nodded. That's fair. I used to think healing meant forgetting, I continued. But forgetting erases lessons. I don't want to forget. So what does it mean now? She asked. It means I can look at the past without needing to fix it, I said. It means I can breathe in this silence and not feel haunted. She smiled softly. You really have changed. I had to, I said. The woman who begged for truth would have never survived this version of me. The strong one? She said. The free one, I corrected. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that felt full instead of empty. The crickets sang in the yard, the wind moved through the trees, and the house, my house, felt alive again. Weeks later, I found myself back in the yellow room, now lined with sketches and fabric samples. The afternoon sun spilled across the table, warm and golden. I traced the grain of the wooden surface and whispered, we made it. For a long time, I thought healing would feel loud, triumphant, dramatic. But it didn't. It felt quiet, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. Thinking again? Chloe said from the doorway, grinning. Always, I said, smiling. But this time, it's not about what went wrong. What's it about then? Gratitude, I said simply. For endings that make room for beginnings. She laughed. You sound like your therapist. Maybe she was right, I said. Justice and healing aren't the same, but maybe healing is the justice. Chloe raised her glass. To the rebuild. To the rebuild, I echoed, feeling the words settle deep inside me. As the evening light faded and the yellow walls turned to gold, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace. Real earned peace. Sometimes starting over isn't about erasing what hurt. It's about standing in the same space that broke you and realizing you survived it. And I did. The envelope sat on my doorstep like it had been waiting for me to open it. My name was written in her handwriting, familiar, looping, too careful. For a long time, I just stared at it. Are you going to open it? Chloe asked, leaning against the counter, coffee in hand. I don't know yet, I said. Part of me wants to throw it straight into the fire. She sent it? Laura, I said quietly. 6 months. Not a word until now. Chloe frowned. What could she possibly say that you'd want to hear? Nothing, I said. But I need to know if she even understands what she did. Just don't let it drag you back, she warned. You've worked too hard to get out of that mess. I won't, I said, even though a small part of me wasn't sure. The paper felt heavier than it should have, like every word inside it was soaked in guilt. I broke the seal and unfolded the first page. Her voice came alive through the ink. Clara, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I've replayed what I did 1,000 times. I was lonely. I was weak. I was jealous of your life, your marriage, your calmness. I never meant to hurt you, but I did, and I'll live with that. I stopped reading and looked up at Chloe. She's blaming loneliness, I said. Like that's an excuse. Keep going, she said softly. Sometimes seeing their words helps you close the door. I sighed and continued. Ethan made me feel seen. I don't say that to justify it, just to explain how it happened. I wish I could take it back. I wish you could hate me less. You were always my anchor, and I broke the only person who ever believed in me. She's still centering herself, I murmured. Every line is about her pain. Does she ask for forgiveness? I flipped to the last page. I hope one day you can forgive me. I don't expect to be in your life again. I just needed you to know I think about you every day. I'll carry this guilt forever. Chloe waited. So? I folded the letter carefully. She wants forgiveness without accountability. She wants peace without honesty. What are you going to do with it? I looked at the folded pages. Burn it. Good, she said quietly. You don't owe her a response. I know, I said. Part of me wanted her to say something real. Something like, I betrayed you because I chose to. Not this poetic guilt. She's trying to make the story softer, Chloe said. But you don't have to read it that way. I nodded, walked to the fireplace, and dropped the letter inside. The paper curled, blackened, and disappeared into orange flame. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. It's weird, I said finally. I thought I'd feel angry. But I don't. What do you feel? Light, I said. Like I just erased something that didn't belong to me anymore. Then that's your closure, she said. A few days later, I got the email from Ethan. The subject line was just, I'm sorry. I stared at it for maybe 30 seconds, then clicked it open. I've thought a lot about what happened. I was stupid. I lost everything that mattered because of a mistake. I never stopped caring about you. I wish I could change it. Mistake. That word sat like a splinter under my skin. He called betrayal a mistake, like tripping over a rug, not dismantling an entire life. I deleted it without replying. When Chloe called later, she asked, Did you read it? Half of it, I said. Same script. Regret without responsibility. Then you did the right thing, she said. Silence is its own answer. At therapy that week, Dr. Harris asked, How did you feel when you burned the letter? Peaceful, I said. Maybe too peaceful. There's no such thing as too peaceful, she smiled. You've learned how to protect yourself. I used to think forgiveness meant I had to tell them I forgave them, I said. Like it needed to be declared. And now? Now I think forgiveness is quiet. It's deciding not to carry the story anymore. She nodded. Forgiveness doesn't always need witnesses. Sometimes it's an act between you and your own peace. I'm not sure I've forgiven them, I admitted. I just don't care anymore. That might be forgiveness, she said. Letting go of resentment isn't the same as excusing the pain. It's just releasing its grip. I thought about that long after I left her office. For months I had searched for closure, something official, something that made sense. But now I realized closure wasn't an event. It was a decision, made quietly, over and over, until the noise faded. That night Chloe came over for dinner. You seem calm, she said, pouring wine. I burned the past, I said. Literally. I like that, she smiled. You're free now. Free enough to stop replaying it, I said. Free enough to stop wondering if they regret it. You really don't think about them? Sometimes, I said. But they feel like characters from a book I already finished. She smiled. That's progress. I used to think closure came from apologies, I said. Now I think it comes from silence. You don't owe them understanding, she said. I know, I said softly. But I owe myself peace. Then you already have it, she said. You look lighter, I smiled. Maybe because I finally stopped expecting answers from people who only give excuses. Later, after Chloe left, I sat by the fireplace again. The ashes from Laura's letter were still faintly visible, gray and soft. I thought about everything those ashes represented. Not just her betrayal, but my need to keep reopening wounds that didn't deserve healing. It hit me then. Forgiveness wasn't always about saying, "I forgive you." Sometimes it was about walking away and choosing not to look back. I didn't forgive them to free them. I did it to free myself. When I stood up, the house was quiet, but it wasn't empty anymore. It felt still, calm, whole, mine. And for the first time since that day in the storage room, I realized I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. Forgiveness isn't always spoken. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's fire. And sometimes it's just choosing to move forward. One step, one breath, one peaceful night at a time. "You really planted lavender here?" he asked, kneeling at the edge of the flower bed like it was a discovery, not something I'd planned and fretted over for months. "Yeah," I said, brushing soil from my fingers with the back of my hand. "Thought it would smell good on summer nights." "It does." He stood and wiped his hands on his jeans. "It's calming." "You did this?" "Mostly." I smiled, surprised by how easy the word felt. I had help. "You've got a green thumb," he said, looking around the yard with an honest sort of appreciation. "It suits you. You're sweet." I laughed softly. "Do you always compliment people when you're trying to woo them?" "Only when it's true," he said. "So does this count as wooing?" "You're doing fine," I said. "Ryan, are you sure you want to be here? This yard used to be complicated." "I like complicated yards," he said. "They make better gardens." He shrugged, casual, but I could see he meant more than plants. "I like that answer," I said. "Makes me feel like you're not afraid of roots." He sat on the low stone wall and patted the space beside him. "Tell me something real then, not the safe version." "Okay." I sat, feeling the sun warm my shoulders. I used to think a perfect life was the point. Now I think perfection is a story people tell to cover the cracks. "That sounds like someone who's been through a storm," he said. "You okay talking about it?" "If you want to know why this yard matters, ask me why the storage room is painted yellow." My voice was steady. The memory was quiet now, not jagged. He waited attentive. "Why yellow?" "Because it used to be the darkest part of the house." I turned to him. I locked that darkness out for good. I painted it bright because I wanted proof I could change a thing that hurt me. "That's brave," he said simply. "Not everyone would do that. You weren't here when I did it." I softened. I gave myself permission in small ways. Paint, a business, new clients. Little acts that told me I was still me. He nodded. "And did it work?" "It did," I said, mostly because I stopped hoping others would repair me. I looked at him. "What about you? Why graphic design?" "Because people tell stories with color and shape," he said. "I like making things that help people feel something without needing words." He smiled. "Also, it keeps me busy so I don't overthink my own life." "That's healthy," I said. "I used to think busyness was a shield." "Is that what brought you here?" he asked, soft, curious. "To this yard, to this house?" "To all of it." I breathed in the lavender, to prove I could live in a place that was mine again. Chloe's voice called from the kitchen window. "Hey, are you two talking about feelings or planting tips?" "We're doing both," I called back. "Planting tips first, then the big reveal." She laughed. "Of course you are." He stood and offered his hand. "Show me your favorite corner." I took it without hesitation. He led me to a small patch where marigolds climbed a trellis I'd painted myself. "You did this alone?" he asked, actually impressed. "No. I had help from a therapist, a friend, and a lot of stubbornness." I nudged the petals. The therapist wanted me to journal, so I did. And then I started telling my story. "You recorded it?" he asked. I did. The confession wasn't theatrical. It was quiet and a little proud. Not for revenge. For anyone who felt small because of someone else's secret. "That's powerful," he paused. "Do you regret how you handled things? The lock, the call?" "I don't regret truth," I said. "I regret I didn't trust myself sooner, but locking them in felt like an exhale after months of holding my breath." He considered that. "Do you think people saw you as harsh?" "Some did," I admitted. "Some called me vindictive. Others understood why I needed proof. I can live with being misunderstood if I'm honest with myself." Chloe walked up with 2 glasses of lemonade and sat on the steps behind us. "He asked if you were harsh," she said, handing one to him, then to me. "What did you say?" "That I'm honest," I said. and honest felt like survival. Chloe grinned. That's my friend. Do you miss him? Ryan asked, sudden and direct. Do you ever think about Ethan? Sometimes, I said right away. Not the man I married? The idea of him, the version that pretended. I miss the future I thought we'd have, but missing something doesn't mean I want it back. That's fair, he said. I guess I'm asking because I want to know what I'm stepping into. You're stepping into someone who knows her limits, I answered. You're stepping into someone who asks for honesty and gives the same back. He nodded, relief and hope mixing on his face. That's not a bad starting point. Yeah, I smiled. No games, no secrets. He looked at me thoughtful. If it's okay to ask, what worried you most about trusting again? That I'd pick the same person twice, I replied. That I'd mistake silence for loyalty. That I'd trade my instincts for comfort. And now? Now I check the small things, I said. I listen when something feels off. I don't let explanations replace evidence. Mostly I let people show me who they are over time. Sounds mature, he said, and kind of intense. It's earned, I said. I paid a lot to learn that. He laughed softly. Worth it, apparently. Because you seem lighter. I am lighter, I said. But lighter doesn't mean I don't have scars. It means scars don't define me, Chloe interjected, teasing. She also has a thriving business now. Reclaim Interiors is officially booked next month. Congrats, Ryan said sincerely. That's huge. It is, I agreed. It's also scary, but it's mine. So what's the first project? He asked. A woman rebuilding after divorce, I said. She wants neutral tones that feel safe, simple lines, big windows. I can help with the branding, he offered. If you want. I'd like that, I said. No pressure. None at all, he said. Just collaboration. We talked about colors and typefaces, and it felt strangely intimate. Two people planning work together like a small, practical romance. We spoke about weekends, about favorite coffee shops, about the kind of music that made us both slow down. Do you ever worry about public perception? He asked quietly later as the sun dipped. Sometimes, I admitted. People still whisper. The grocery store still has that one neighbor who avoids eye contact. That must be rough. It is, I said. But I'd rather be judged for being honest than for staying quiet. He turned to me, serious and steady. If you had one thing you could tell every person who's betrayed, what would it be? I thought about Dr. Harris's words, the months of therapy, the small victories. Don't silence your instincts to keep peace, I said. Listen to your gut, document things if you need to, and remember that walking away is not failure. It's preservation. He nodded slowly. That's good advice. It's what saved me, I said. And I want others to know they can rebuild. Chloe clapped softly. You're giving workshops next month, she reminded. You'll be telling your story. I will, I said. Not for revenge, but to show a path out. Are you scared? Ryan asked. Terrified, I said with a small laugh, but also excited. Then it's worth doing, he said. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. The garden hummed, crickets, the faint rustle of leaves. I felt the pulse of my life in small things, the tilt of a plant, the creak of the gate, the steady breath of someone beside me who looked at me with kindness. You ever think about starting a family again? Chloe asked suddenly, bold as always. I do, I answered. Not right now, but maybe someday, with someone who chooses me every day. Someone who tells you the truth, even when it hurts, Ryan added. Yes, I said. That's the bar now. He smiled and reached for my hand. I can live with that bar. My phone buzzed. A message from a client confirming a meeting. I read it, then looked up. You okay? Ryan asked. Yeah, I said. I'm okay. The truth settled in me like a new plant taking root. So what's next? Chloe asked, standing. I launch the workshop, I said. I take on the first project. I keep building. I looked at Ryan, and I see where this goes slowly. Slow is good, he said. I'm not in a rush. Neither am I said, and meant it. We stood together in the yard a long moment, the sky bruising into evening. I realized I didn't feel the old hunger for revenge. I felt a quieter, fiercer hunger, to create, to love honestly, to keep the life I'd reclaimed. Are you happy? Chloe asked softly, the question that mattered most. I am, I answered. Not perfect, not untouched, but real, and that's enough. She smiled, eyes wet but proud. Then cheers to that. To that, I echoed, and the clink of glasses sounded like a promise. Later, when the guests left and the lights dimmed, I stood alone for a second in the yellow room, now a workshop, running my hand along a freshly sanded shelf. I survived this, I whispered to the empty space. I built it back. A small knock on the door broke the silence. I opened it and saw Ryan holding 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might want one," he said. "You're persistent," I teased, taking a cup. "Because rebuilding takes company," he replied. I looked at him, then at the yard, then back to the yellow walls that had once been a wound. The past had been loud and cruel, but it had taught me how to raise a new house inside myself, one with open windows, honest floors, and a door that locked only when I wanted it to. "Thank you for being here," I said. "Always," he replied. "For as long as you'll have me." I sipped the tea and felt something settle, a quiet readiness. The story I told the world wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing myself, and now, in the soft glow of the backyard lights, I finally believed the greatest revenge wasn't destruction at all. It was rebuilding stronger than before. If you've ever found the strength to rebuild after betrayal, share your story below. Your truth might be someone else's courage. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about rising, stronger and wiser than before. And if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week, we share more real, powerful stories of resilience, love, and self-discovery.